directly, ati bottom up, ati atoe pesa apatie kila mtu ambaye anafanya biashara ndogo. Unajua Kenya hii, hata kama hatuna pesa wote, sisi sio wajinga. Na acha niwaambie tu kwa mfano, wale ambao wanafanya kazi ndogo ndogo, ile artisans, unajua artisans, wale wako kwa market wanajenga maseremala, wale wanajenga vitu ya chuma, Kenya mzima ni milioni 7. Haya, wale ambao ni hawkers, si mnajua hawkers, na wale wanafanya biashara kwa market, biashara na ambao tunawaheshimu na lazima tuwasaidie, ni milioni 8. Sijui kama tuko pamoja. Wale ambao Kenya mzima ambao wanafanya small traders, service providers, boda boda, watu wa saloon, wote ni milioni 3. Alafu wale wakulima wadogo wadogo, unajua ni wangapi? Kenya mzima milioni 4. Hao watu wote ni milioni 22. 22 million Kenyans in the informal economy. Ukiamua kuwapatia wote ati pesa 100,000, je, wanasema watawapea 100,000? Hiyo ni trilioni 2, 2.2 trillion. Na budget ya Kenya ni trilioni 3. Sio ni uongo?
22 million low-income earners. If each of them was to receive, I think, 1,000 shillings, was the math there, Kimani?
That's the math Sakaja is doing.
2.2 trillion Kenya shillings. So to him, I guess the bottom-up plan is voodoo economics. How do you respond to that?
You must. That's the trivialization that Kwame was talking about.
And let me let our viewers know, we invited him to the program and he said he wouldn't be able to make it, but carry on.
Well, because he wants it in the rallies. He has no idea of what we are talking about. In fact, I don't know who told Johnson Sakaja. Maybe him and Musalia Mudavadi have their own model where they are doing 100,000 shillings, because nobody has ever said that. I think even the example I gave you, and maybe even Kwame didn't get it right, we're not saying you give it to CDF. We're saying have a model where you create a fund where you can have 100 million shillings per constituency, and you even get a way of getting that money to fund businesses in the constituency. True, if you listen to what Sakaja was saying, and you must forgive Sakaja, because if you looked at the skit they were acting with Musalia somewhere in Nyandarua, it's Sakaja actually who gave the bottle to Musalia Mudavadi, and you could clearly tell Sakaja was the owner of that script of bottoms up. And you know, the last time I heard of Sakaja being arrested somewhere at 2 a.m. drinking, maybe you will now understand why they trivialize the bottom-up economic model to being about competing, about drinking up to 2 a.m. in the streets of Nairobi during past curfew hours. Look at the figures he's giving you. 22 million Kenyans. Kwame will tell you, even if I just Googled from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, the figures they have there for micro, small, and medium enterprises, 7.4 million Kenyans. If you add maybe a few border riders, you get to close to maybe 12 million or an average, and that's why we estimate about 15 million Kenyans in MSMEs. Therefore, the 22 million Kenyans, that's a fallacy, and I don't know where Sakaja is getting this, maybe from some of the bars they frequent.
I think you've made your point. Please carry on.
Data does not speak to that, economic data in the country, even from the government the Bureau of Statistics. Two, if you talk about dishing out money, that is
because there has been a feeling that that's part of bottom up, that the money is free money.
There that there will be money being dished out as handouts. It is money to do business. That's why I'm telling you, it's about including people who are excluded from economic activity. It is getting that Mama Mboga. Mama Mboga does not need 100,000 shillings today, Wahiga. The Mama Mboga needs the 2,000 shillings of her stock, daily stock, that she fulizes or borrows from M-Shwari at an interest rate of about 120% per annum. That Mama Mboga needs a capital of 10,000 shillings to be able to grow her business, not to make 200 shillings in a day, to make 400 to 600 shillings in a day. Get that Mama Mboga now to be a person who is able to pay taxes. And there's a question that people raised in the tweets that you read out, and John Mbadi ran away from it. And I because I'm not used to running away from issues, I remind John Mbadi, when we talked about concession and the interest on loans, from Eurobond. Let me just remind him that we have a current Eurobond that we have just gotten under the handshake regime, not under the old Jubilee regime. John Mbadi will bear me witness that when I came into the budget committee that he sat in the last parliament under Jubilee 1, John Mbadi was a member of the budget committee.
I think he's
that was approving
he's concerned about those first years.
Loans. Let me. He raised issues that I want to respond to. Wahiga.
Okay, go ahead.
When I came in as chairman of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, he will bear me witness that in 2017 October, I raised the issue of moving away from the Eurobond type commercial loans to more concessionary loans. Up to this day, in the handshake regime, we are still on Eurobonds and everything. But I wanted to say, Wahiga, if you were to look at what we are talking about and we really make our debate to be about including people that we have excluded out of our economic activities, to deal with the debt burden that Kenyans are talking about in the tweets, all you need to do, even for the next president and future presidents, is to make sure that you are raising. Why are we borrowing? Make sure that you raise enough money from your own taxes. You do not raise more money by overtaxing Wahiga, Kimani, and Kwame, who are in formal employment today. You raise more money by getting more people into the tax bracket, by ensuring that they're included in economic activities, and that's why the bottom-up economic model brings in those people that you have excluded. They become taxpayers. You raise more money. You borrow less. You get people and government, as Kwame was telling you, get government out of the banking sector borrowing from a domestic market. Allow that money. And we will be doing a manifesto, Wahiga, when the time comes. And Kenyans will be able to interrogate the manifesto that we do, what we intend to do to raise taxes from Kenyans, and be able to borrow less, be able to have a balanced budget in 2 to 3 years. It took Mwai Kibaki a very short time. Mwai Kibaki inherited an economy that was battered after the Moi regime. Just like the next president, and God willing, that may be William Ruto, will inherit a battered economy from Uhuru Kenyatta. It will take 2-3 years of doing the right things.
And you speak here as a Jubilee MP.
I speak as a Jubilee MP on his, way out of Jubilee. If you describe the economy as battered,
you bear some responsibility.
Sorry?
As you describe the economy as battered, you bear some responsibility for that.
Let me just be honest. Indeed, I will take this opportunity to express my regret that we campaigned very hard for a regime that we believed would come in and implement a Big Four agenda that was going to, in a big way, transform the economy of this country. It's my regret, and I'm sorry to Kenyans. And I wish there was anything I would have done as a person to change, because we diverted from that Big Four agenda and we started dwelling on the small two of handshake and BBI, and diverted from what would have created value for our economy.
What policy changes?
That is a regret. That is a regret.
I'm taking time for Kwame, but what policy changes are these that change with the handshake? Because government has continued operating.
We shifted from the Big Four agenda. That is literally dead, Wahiga, as we speak.
Can you be more specific? How? How did the shift happen?
Why is the housing agenda that we sold to Kenyans?
The president
we were to build 500,000 jobs every year to create a minimum of 4 million jobs. If we only did even 100,000 jobs, get even 8 people per house, you'd have created 800,000 jobs from those housing. Where is that manufacturing agenda that Kwame Owino was talking to you about? It's dead. We were to do an SGR that would move raw materials from Mombasa, from the port, and finished goods from an industrial park in Naivasha down to Mombasa. Where are the industries in Naivasha today? Where are the people that we are training in our TVETs to be able to be engaged in a manufacturing pillar that we have literally killed? We have killed enterprise. And the bottom-up economic model, Wahiga, is not about entitlement for those who feel that they're entitled. It is not about entitlement for the few. It is about empowering the majority. You will see those who feel empowered today have closed down industries. Look at the
and you have made your point.
Look at the beer industry, for instance,
yes.
In closing.
Briefly, please.
Look at the Keroches of this world, the African spirits in Thika. You sent DCI to close down Keroche, African spirits, brandish tax bills of 40 billion shillings to somebody just to do their business, because there are people who have interest in the same industry.
I'm pressed for time. Let me get Kwame in on this.
State capture is the corruption that you have to deal with.
Kwame, come in. Even as you might want to respond to one or two things that Kimani Ichungwah said, he seems to have taken some responsibility for where we are today. Is there any economic model that can change the fortunes of Kenyans overnight? Is there a magic formula?
No,
is there a silver bullet?
No, I'm glad that Kimani Ichungwah has knelt before Kenyans and given his confession. We accept it.
Yeah.
However, it is not true, and I think the BBI has been a distraction without doubt, but it is not true that the problems and the inability to construct 500,000 houses, as was claimed first, I thought it was too big, but the inability to construct 500,000 houses comes from the fact that after Jubilee's first 5 years, government was so highly leveraged that the only thing the Jubilee administration one gave to the second one was debt. So you are struggling with the consequences of that first one. Two, I think that the sobering up is a good thing, and that's why this debate must never be trivialized with some of the comments we've seen. But there are some big decisions whoever comes in is going to have to take. What do we do with white elephants, including the SGR? It's a white elephant. You might accept it or not.
And you have your data backs that up.
There's no way you can run the SGR to pay the money that was borrowed to construct it. There's no way. It's damaging. It's raised the cost of manufacturing farms because the transportation costs coming from the coast down here are actually much higher. Many of them then have to go to the internal container depot where they have to wait hours, sometimes days, to actually clear. As you're waiting for days, you're being charged demurrage charges. So the industry is so inefficient that it's going to become an eyesore that we are going to actually have to deal with. Do we stop running it, or do we do something that actually cuts those costs? It's too high. It's just going to actually be a backward drag on the economy. So a brave decision is going to have to be made by somebody about whether we keep throwing money at it, hoping good money will save it or not. Those are decisions that are inevitable, whether you call it bottom-up or whether you call it rural transformation. Both administrations are going to have to do that. And for as long as it is kept, the administration will have a problem with the pace at which you can run towards transformation. So what I'm saying is there are no shortcuts. But the shortcut that I think all Kenyans want, sitting out there, regardless of whatever political formation comes in, Kenyans want to be free to run businesses and not compete with government. You cannot give a company, again, I use this slaughterhouse because it's the worst form, KMC, giving them billions every year and then taking taxes from your other small trader who's actually trading in Dagoretti or some other place. And the small trader is still doing better than these others. I mean, that you actually have to bring in military people to run a butchery? It's not shameful, to be honest. I mean, what have we become?
The military, actually.
Yeah, you're asking the military to run a butchery? What have we become? And those are decisions that these guys are going to have to make, regardless of which formation comes in. But I think the other is just basically the tax regime, because part of letting people run their businesses is making sure that they can keep most of the income that they run. And here I don't blame them. If somebody establishes that, whether it's a border guy, whether it's the lady who runs a grocery shop, whoever it is, at what scale, and they're trying to grow, they want to grow and not be constrained with one tax every year, one tax the other. Some of them also depend on the inputs that the manufacturing firms are going to give them. You've shackled the manufacturing firms with an excise tax on everything. VAT, obviously, on everything. I think decisions actually will have to be made, and those are difficult. But let's just remember, again, Kenyans, do not take the slogans. Just ask yourself this simple test. Which one of these formations is going to allow me to do honest labor, not have people come and pull out my teeth because they asked me for a bribe of 200, who's going to protect my freedom, and most importantly, keep most of the income that I earn so that I can take care of myself, my family, and the people who care for me.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
Call it bottom-up or whatever else you want to call it. Just say who's going to unshackle us from huge taxes and